Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of the DFO DFS show for Monday, February 15th. Happy Family Day to all of my fellow Canadians, and happy President's Day to any of our American viewers out there. Hope you guys all had a good weekend. Ready to make some money on a Monday. Let's just get right into things here. If you're new to the show, as I say every show, you can feel free to drop any comments in comment section and I will get to them as I go. And anything you see in terms of the Google Sheets today, you can access by becoming a DFO Premium member. You can subscribe to DFO Premium for as little as $9.99. And we also have a little promo going on right now. I will be tweeting out an image later. And if you use the Daily Faceoff logo as your badge on Draftkings or FanDuel, and you get a takedown of at least $250. So if you win a contest where it's at least $250 to first place, and you send a screenshot to us of that, you will get a free week of DFO Premium to give it a try, get access to all these goodies, and our lineup optimizer. So some pretty cool stuff there, but we got a 9-game slate, pretty busy Monday, all things considered. With the holiday, it's a little bit more busy. Obviously, most holidays we get a couple more afternoon games, but just one early start, which is underway right now with Arizona and St. Louis wrapping up a ridiculous 7-game regular season series, which is just hilarious. But let's get into the main slate, which kicks off at 7 o'clock with the Hurricanes and Blue Jackets. Expect James Reimer to go for the Hurricanes. Jonas Korpisalo confirmed for the Blue Jackets. It looks like a battle of the backups in Florida. We've got Curtis McElhinney expected to start for the Lightning. Chris Driedger confirmed for the Panthers. Linus Ullmark and the Buffalo Sabres get back in action after a long break due to COVID-19. And they will host the Islanders, who are expected to go with Ilya Sorokin on the front end of a back-to-back. I'm a little worried about this one, to be honest. Like, obviously we have him listed as likely, but it's definitely something I'd keep an eye on. It was just a matter of him being the first goalie to leave the ice. But it was reported by a Buffalo reporter. So always get a little nervous, but with COVID-19, some of these reporters aren't traveling and stuff. So it is a little bit more difficult to get information, but something to keep an eye on. But the fact that the Islanders play again tomorrow, I believe, they're going to have to split these goalies regardless. So look for Sorokin to go tonight. Frederik Andersen confirmed for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Marcus Högberg confirmed for the Senators. Matt Murray was back on the ice this morning, but not ready to go, so we'll stick with Högberg, who had a pretty good showing the other night. Thomas Greiss, likely, he was in the starter's crease for the Detroit Red Wings. We would expect to see Kevin Lankinen for the Chicago Blackhawks, but no real information from them. Anton Khudobin confirmed for the Dallas Stars. Pekka Rinne expected for the Predators. If you guys have been using Daily Faceoff for a while now, you know that the Predators are very difficult to get goaltending or information out of, especially when they're on the road. They have Rinne listed in the number 1 slot on their lineup projection for tonight's game, so that's kind of where we get Pekka Rinne from there. Mike Smith expected to go head-to-head with Connor Hellebuyck. Smith has been really solid since making his season debut, 985 save percentage in his first 2 starts. Thatcher Demko versus Jakob Markstrom in Vancouver as they host the Flames. And Martin Jones continues to start for the Sharks, but Devin Dubnyk is going to return, I believe, tonight as a backup. So Dubnyk should get the next game. But Martin Jones will go again tonight, and John Gibson in net for the Ducks. Alvin kicks off our first question of the day. Asks, do you like Gibson for a goalie tonight? And I do. Obviously, we will talk a lot more about goalies at the end of the show, but I guess I can start with John Gibson. I do like Gibson a little bit tonight. If we look at the Sharks lineup tonight, obviously most of their guys up front still, obviously pretty good top 6, but their blue line really banged up. Radim Simek's out. And Erik Karlsson both out tonight. So their blue line's looking a little spotty tonight. Obviously, not the best defensive team to begin with. So it's going to be tough for the Sharks tonight. Obviously, Martin Jones has had his struggles this year and playing behind a really inexperienced blue line. Obviously, outside of Brent Burns and Mark-Edward Vlasic, it looks like a tough spot for the Sharks. So I do like the Ducks a little bit. We'll talk about them from a stacking standpoint, but I also do like John Gibson. I believe he's 7,600. So a pretty good price for John Gibson, who's one of the best goalies in the world. And he's coming off of a 21 save shutout the other night against a much better Vegas team than the Sharks team is. So he's obviously had a pretty strong season to date, 923 save percentage. So definitely a fan of John Gibson this evening. But let's get into the stacks, and let's go back to the top of the page here, where we will start with the Hurricanes and Blue Jackets. So the Blue Jackets have been kind of coming on lately. Why do your Red Wings refuse to play Mantha with Larkin? Buddy, Tony, honestly, man, I've been trying to figure out Jeff Blashill for a long time, and I have no idea. Just the Red Wings all in general just they're just so bad offensively. So I think they've kind of just adapted this role of let's play defense, and he's kind of trying to spread that thin lineup out as much as he can and get the most out of it as he possibly can. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. When Bertuzzi's healthy, I would love to see those three back together, but I can't. Figuring out Jeff Blashill's line combinations is like probably the hardest thing of all time. He just makes absolutely zero sense. But yeah, the Blue Jackets have been coming on lately. Obviously, Jack Roslovic has been a huge pickup for them thus far. Arguably, he's been better than Patrick Laine to this point. Since the trade, Roslovic's price is up to $5,400. This whole line is pretty expensive at $17,800. And overall, they actually come in as a below average full stack for me this evening. The best line to target in this game looks like it's going to be Niederreiter, Vincent Trocheck, and Martin Necas, who have been very good so far this season. Obviously, if you've listened to the show before, I absolutely love Sebastian Aho as a player, and I love the Hurricanes. But until Andrei Svechnikov is back on that line, they're just not quite as good and not really worth paying for. But if we take a look up at the matchups here, so we said that the best line to stack in this game looks like it is Carolina 2, and they're going to see roughly 50% of their ice time, or we project them to see 50% of their ice time. Obviously, any of these numbers you see here, these are just projections. We don't know for sure, but they are based on historical matchups. If you're new to the show, that's kind of how we get it. We go based off of the home team's matchups in previous games against this team or previous games against teams with similar builds in their lineup. And so that's how we get these numbers here. So we're projected about 50% of their ice time to come against Columbus's third line. And if we go to the top here, Columbus's third line is their worst defensive line. So that's why it looks like it's the best matchup for Carolina. They're going to get the most exposure to Columbus's, worst defensive line, at least, in the numbers. The rest of the Blue Jackets have been pretty solid altogether. And that's why you see the Hurricanes with a pretty modest score here, just 2.71. Obviously, you can see some much lower scores below. So from a DFS perspective, this doesn't really look like a game that's really worth targeting all that much. But if you are, planning on building multiple lineups and kind of spreading the wealth across different games, then Carolina 2 looks like the best line to target. Obviously, they've been really solid so far this season. It's good to see Martin Necas back in the lineup. They're averaging over 32 scoring chances, 4 per 60. The Aho line, which when Svechnikov's there, is usually well above 30, but without Svechnikov, they just, the numbers aren't quite as good. If you look at the O score here, which if you're new to the show, builds in kind of all of their underlying offensive numbers and ranks them based on the rest of the lines on the day's slate. And they come out, very well at a plus 5.02 offensive score rating. So Carolina 2 been a really good line thus far this season and looks to be the best line to target in this game. But really, it doesn't look like a whole lot of offense is going to be made in this game. Both teams pretty solid defensively. The Blue Jackets really not very good offensively, at least at 5v5. Penalty kill, and power play, are both lagging as well. So don't really have a whole lot of the interest in the Blue Jackets, although they have played much better as of late. And there's obviously, if they continue to play as well as they have in the last few games, those numbers are going to start to improve and they're going to start popping on these sheets. But matchup with the Hurricanes really isn't that good. I thought Columbus's top one was producing better than that. Yeah, no, like at 5v5, just really not, not generating as many chances as you might expect, given the recent production. But, I think that if they had a better matchup tonight, their numbers would pop a little bit. But as I said, like if we look at Columbus's top line, expected to see 29% of the Aho line, 55% of the Stahl line, and both lines are fairly good defensively, not giving up a whole lot, especially the Stahl line in terms of high danger chances or expected goals against. So that just really brings down Columbus 1's score overall on this slate. Just not a great matchup. But like I said, they're just getting going, right? So if they continue to play well for a few more games, those offensive numbers, those underlying numbers are going to improve drastically, and then they're going to start popping on the sheet. But until then, their numbers just really haven't been, all that eye-popping just yet. Tampa Bay and Florida. Now, just remember the other thing about the score. This is based strictly on their 5v5 matchups with the opposing lines. This does not factor in the goaltenders, so you have to also build that into your process when you're looking at who you want to play. Obviously, taking the matchups in consideration is one thing, but if the other team doesn't have a good goalie, then that's another thing that you're going to want to think of and put into your process. So let's go to the second game here. I just got a little notification saying that my internet is lagging behind. So let me know if you guys are having any viewing issues, and I'll see what I can do about that. But let's just keep going here, keep plugging away. We got Tampa Bay and Florida. Let's go to 5v5 scores for this game. So Florida won. If you're a viewer of the show, you know that Florida won always grades out well. And that's just because their underlying numbers through the first month of the season have been absolutely outstanding. Carter Verhaeghe, Alexander Barkov, Anthony Duclair, the numbers are just outrageous, and they look really good. The one thing that definitely helps them in this matchup tonight is the absence of Anthony Cirelli in the Tampa Bay Lightning lineup. Obviously, he's one of their better two-way centers, and is he makes that second line really good defensively. If we look at what they do without him, they give up 23 scoring chances against per 60, which isn't terrible, but it's not. It's normally lower when you've got him in the lineup, and then their offensive numbers are usually a little bit higher as well. So not having Anthony Cirelli definitely hurts Tampa Bay too. But if we look at the matchup for Florida 1, they're expected to see still about 45% of that third line, which is the Tampa Bay 3 line, which is a line that we know has been very good. Their numbers are starting to come back down to earth a little bit after just an absolutely insane start. But they're still, above average defensively, as you can see here by this plus 283. That means that they're above, pretty well above average defensively, and not really a line that you want to target. But what makes Florida 1 stick out is just these outrageous numbers. They continue to be eye-popping. You'd expect maybe some regression as the season progresses, but through a month of the season, it's just not happened. They continue to dominate. Obviously, Tampa Bay dominated this game the other night. But Florida 1 had a terrific game. They had a 70% Corsi for. So, they were still controlling the puck a ton, and they just were unable to get on the score sheet. But it's not for a lack of trying. And I think that it is kind of getting frustrating with Florida 1, because even against the Red Wings last week, they had a game where they were dominating and they just weren't finishing. So they're starting to become one of those lines similar to Montreal 1 that just seems to be dominating possession, but maybe not finishing at quite a high clip. And I think that is something that you can expect, right? I mean, it is, after all, Carter Verhaeghe and Anthony Duclair, two guys they picked up on the cheap in free agency, but they're still dominating. They're still always going to be a good target because of how much they control the puck and how much they control offense. So they're always going to be in play. And then with Curtis McElhinney starting tonight, I think that makes them even more appealing. I think that, obviously Andrei Vasilevskiy, one of the best goalies in the world, when you can avoid him, that's always a good thing. So they look really good. And then on the flip side, the only other line really that looks like it's worth targeting in this game is Tampa Bay 1. Obviously it's easy to recommend the two top lines, but from a matchup perspective, that those are just by far the best matchups in this game. Tampa Bay 1 gets a huge boost with Steven Stamkos back in the lineup. He's 8,100, 7,000 for Braden Point. But overall, still not a great matchup. They're expected to see kind of a mix of the first, third, and fourth line of the Florida Panthers. And the Panthers have been pretty solid defensively, actually really good defensively all year long. So on a 9-game slate, I think that, obviously the way Stamkos has been playing, he's already got 7 goals, I believe, on the year. They're always a decent play, but the Panthers have really locked down defensively under Joel Quenneville. So they're a lot tougher of a matchup than they were a season ago, where they were a little bit more freewheeling. So, I don't love Tampa Bay 1 tonight, considering their price. I think there's much better options out there at that price range. But I think you'll get them at maybe some decent ownership, given all the other, like whenever Toronto 1 and Connor McDavid are on a slate, they soak up a lot of ownership. So I think, like, given their price and the matchup, you can definitely get Tampa Bay 1 at a slightly reduced ownership tonight, which is always beneficial. Duclair will break out soon. Yeah, I agree completely. Duclair's been snake bitten. He's been around it a lot. And I keep playing him and I keep kind of getting disappointed, but I agree 100%. Eventually it's coming. He's been around it and he's been dangerous all season long. And it is just kind of a matter of time before he snaps that slump. He is producing shots at a really good clip, which is always kind of what you're looking for. And the fact that he hasn't been producing makes him very playable at 4,100, right? Like now his his salary's come down quite a bit. So he's not above 5,000 anymore. He's actually almost under 4,000. So he's a little bit more playable at that price range now, and it is a matter of time before he kind of snaps out of it. And hopefully it's tonight, because I'm sick of playing Florida 1 and being let down. It's a holiday, so I still get to drink beer on the show today. Let's go to the third game of the night. The Islanders and the Sabres. So obviously, one thing that's been extremely weird about this season is COVID-19. Obviously, it's been weird for this whole year, but it's hard to project exactly what a team's going to do coming off of a lengthy break. We've seen some teams like Dallas that they didn't play for the whole start of the season. They come out of the break. They came out of the break flying. And then you got a team like Colorado last night who gets shut out in their first game back. And, obviously they're still missing some key pieces. They didn't have Landeskog. They didn't have Cale Makar. So that hurts, but Buffalo seems to have most of their lineup together. They do have a number of game time decisions, but it looks like everyone's going to play. Reinhardt's dealing with a minor injury, but it looks like he's in. Tobias Reeder, not really that important from a DFS perspective, but looks like he's in. Brandon Montour. So 2 days ago, this looked like a game where you're going to be like, oh my God, I want to stack the Islanders because the Sabres were without their entire blue line. But with each passing day, they've kind of gotten another defenseman back healthy. So now it looks like McCabe, Montour, Dahlin, Jokiharju, Miller will all be in. So that's 5 of the regular defensemen. The only one missing from that equation is Rasmus Ristolainen, which is obviously a key piece, but what they look like today versus what they looked like yesterday and the day before that, it's much better. So David says the Islanders Sabres games intrigues me. Want to stack on both sides. Yeah, I kind of agree. I actually prefer. Well, let's get into it here. So the top stack in this game for me is Buffalo 1. They come out way on top. So obviously it's scary. Are they? It's tough to play them in a spot where it's are they going to be so rusty and just shit the bed and then kill your lineups? Maybe. Honestly, it's 100% a possibility. But Jeff Skinner and Jack Eichel, their numbers have been really good together in limited time since Jeff Skinner's been in Buffalo. So based on those numbers, it looks like a line that you can definitely stack tonight. The fact that Jeff Skinner is only $2,800. The ranking numbers next to the skaters are based on this year. So obviously you have to go back to some historical data if you need to. So in Jeff Skinner's situation, he's probably only played 10 minutes with Jack Eichel. So we can't just base it on a 10-minute sample size. So I have to take a little bit of sample from the year previous, going back to the last time Jeff Skinner played with Jack Eichel. Their numbers are really good. So the fact that Jeff Skinner's 2,800 makes him a really good cash game play, makes him a really good one-off play. Obviously just great value for Jeff Skinner playing with Jack Eichel. He's going to be, pretty popular. Obviously people playing McDavid's and Matthews are going to have to cram this guy in there. But from a full stack perspective, pretty reasonably priced because of Jeff Skinner at 15,700. If we look at the matchup, not really a hard match at all for anybody. They're going to see 34% of their ice time is going to come against the Barzell line, but mostly they're just going to see a mix of the Islanders, all 4 Islanders lines. No real hard match situation, but the Islanders, have been, some of their lines have been pretty decent defensively, some not so good. Sorry, that's the Sabres. The Islanders, depending on the way they construct their lineup, it's going to change whether or not Anthony Beauvillier plays tonight. Depending on how they change, if Eberle goes back up to the top line, if Eberle stays with Nelson, I don't really know. I would imagine that Beauvillier plugs in for Dal Cole on the Nelson line, and Dal Cole goes down in Leo Komarov spots. That would make the most sense to me. But Beauvillier is a game time decision and not 100% going to play. Barry Trotz was speaking in riddles this afternoon and kind of didn't really give us a good idea. But as you can see here, not overwhelmingly good numbers from the Islanders defensively and really good numbers from the Eichel line. So it looks like that this Eichel line, obviously coming off the break, that it's a bit of a question mark, but matchup wise, it looks like it's a really good spot for them. The fact that Ilya Sorokin is getting the start most likely for the Islanders makes them even more intriguing. He really has not impressed me at all in his brief NHL career to this point. So I like Buffalo 1 quite a bit. Obviously, the rest of their lineup looks pretty pretty garbage. Like obviously Taylor Hall is really good. Stahl, Reinhart, like that's an intriguing line, but overall the underlying numbers haven't been that good. But you can play them for probably next to nothing in terms of ownership, because if anybody's going to be playing the Sabres tonight, they're going to be playing the top line because Jeff Skinner's 2,800. So, talking about the site. So the rankings on the site are from Corsica, and yes, they're big. It's all of like, it is some historical data, but it takes in some account, obviously, of what's happened this year. But it's not just based solely on this year. It's based on kind of a historical trend. And if you click on the little powered by Corsica symbol on Daily Faceoff, it'll kind of give you an explainer of how it all works. But it's not my ranking, so I can't really go too deep into that. From the Islanders' perspective, it does get a little bit weird because obviously I have their second line ranked as the best play from the Islanders side. But like I said, if Beauvillier plays, it could change things. Obviously, if Beauvillier plays, I like them even more. Beauvillier is a much better player than Michael Del Cole. I will be interested to see if they move Eberle up. I think if they keep Eberle on this line, it is much better. Nelson and Eberle's lines have been really good together. So if Beauvillier slides in for Del Cole, that makes this line even better. If he doesn't play and it still ends up being Del Cole, Nelson, and Eberle, I think that Nelson Eberle stack is a pretty good spot as well. They've been, like I said, really good together thus far. They're expected to see 51% of their ice time against the third line of the Sabres, which is the Cody Eakin line, which they use kind of in a shutdown role against one of the opponent's top two lines, and they really have been just terrible, giving up 30 scoring chances against per 60, 14 high danger chances against per 60, one of the worst defensive lines on the entire slate. So that's kind of why the Islanders' second line pops. In terms of the Barzell line, their numbers just are nowhere near as good without Eberle. They come in right around average in terms of offensive score tonight. So depending on how the lines shake out, if Beauvillier plays, it could change things. But as of right now, it definitely looks like the best option is to go with a Nelson and Eberle mini. If Beauvillier just strictly plugs in for Del Cole, then you can full stack that line for sure. Moving on. So Toronto and Ottawa. This looks like a game that is going to be extremely high scoring. I know that I'm higher on Ottawa than most, but obviously I'm kind of just talking from a strictly numbers perspective. And based on the numbers, they've been absolutely, terrific. So Ottawa 2 grades out extremely well. If you've been listening to the show over the last few weeks, I've been talking about the Colin White, Evgeny Dadonov mini stack. I keep going back to it. Dadonov is finally starting to heat up. I think he's got goals in 3 out of his last 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. I'm kind of talking off the top of my head here. I don't know for sure. Let me see if I can look that up really quick. Wow, I nailed it. Yeah, 3 out of his last 4 games, he's got goals. Things seem to be clicking for him. They've really kind of entrusted that line with a lot of minutes as well. So, until their price starts coming up, I'm gonna keep playing them. They've been really good. If we look at their matchup, they're going to see about 44% of their ice time against Matthews, 27% against Kerfoot. Obviously, the Leafs have been pretty good defensively thus far this season. None of these lines really stick out in terms of being one that you absolutely want to target, but none of them really stick out as ones you want to avoid either. They're pretty much average defensively and rely a little bit more on their offensive game, which is, not surprising when you've got Austin Matthews, Marner, and John Tavares. But just look at the numbers from the Senators, the way they've been doing things here. One of the best lines, if not the best offensive line in terms of the numbers right now on the slate is Colin White and Dadonov with Nick Paul. Nick Paul is not quite as offensive, so I don't usually play him. I usually just go with the mini, and it allows you to just fit in a ton of other high-priced options. And the way that they're producing offense right now, it makes sense. So 3.92 expected goals for per 60 is crazy high. 36 scoring chances for per 60 is insane. And 18 high danger chances for per 60 is just nuts. Those numbers are incredible. Now, if we look right below them, these numbers are very similar too, right? Like 41 scoring chances for per 60, 18 high danger chances for. It's a little bit of a smaller sample size, but it's Tim Stützle and it's Derek Stepan and it's, I think, Drake Batherson. Sorry, I can't remember all these lines by off the top of my head. But yeah, Drake Batherson. So they've been really good together too. I think that they'll soak up a little bit more ownership just because of Stützle. He's just kind of a little bit more of a popular name. The problem with kind of all of these lines is that they don't really correlate very well on the power play. I mean, you got Dadonov on the top power play and Stützle on the top power play, which is fine. So, but really, it's like one guy from each line on the top power play, which kind of sucks. But if you want to play Dadonov or Stützle, one of those two lines, you can plug Chabot in there too to kind of make it a 3-person stack. If you want to play Dadonov White or Stützle Stepan, or even just Stützle as a one-off, I think is fine. He's been heating up as well. So I mean, I don't think that they're going to get a ton of ownership tonight. So I do like the Senators. Frederik Andersen's been playing a little bit better this as of late, but still a .909 save percentage on the season. Nothing spectacular, and just these offensive numbers stick out like crazy for the Senators. So definitely a ton of interest in them just as value options to kind of make some deeper lineups. From the Toronto perspective, obviously Toronto one sticks out. They get Joe Thornton back on the top line tonight. He's just 2,900. Matthews up to 8,800. Marner 7,500. They've obviously been really good. They're expected to see about 72% of their ice time against the Senators' top six. And as good as the Senators have been offensively, it's been basically just like pond hockey for them out there, generating a ton of chances, but also giving up a ton of chances. Just wide open hockey. The white line has improved defensively the last few games, but still not a line that I'm really afraid to target overall. So obviously Toronto's in play. They're going to carry a ton of ownership. Toronto 2 looks really solid. Obviously a step down, a downgrade from the Matthews line, but the price is really good when you got Tavares at 6,500 and Nylander at 5,300. I like Hyman a lot more when he's with Tavares, when he's with Matthews and Marner. With Tavares and Nylander, I just don't think it's really necessary. But Tavares, Nylander look really solid as a mini stack as well. If you want to get them at, get some Leafs exposure at discounted ownership. But Matthews is just scoring at will right now, so it's kind of hard to fade him in a matchup with Marcus Högberg. And obviously, I didn't talk about Ottawa 1. They're a good play too. But Brady Tkachuk at 6,500, I just think that you might as well just get the cheaper guys. Like they're producing at just the same level at a much cheaper price. So I prefer their depth options tonight as opposed to targeting their top line. Detroit and Chicago. I think this is another game that'll see a bunch of ownership, at least on the Chicago side. Overall, from 5v5, they don't really grade out very well. And that's because, you might be surprised by this, but Detroit has been one of the best offensive lines in all of hockey, or defensive teams, in all of hockey this year. They're really not giving up a lot at 5v5, which is stunning because they're terrible, but they're not generating any offense. So this is a game that Chicago should win. It's a game they should score some goals, but I think it's going to be, like from a 5v5 perspective, I don't really have a lot of interest in Chicago, but they're going to see ownership because they're scorching hot right now. I mean, DeBrincat and Patrick came up the two hottest players in the league, since the start of February. But if they're going to get anything done tonight, it's going to probably have to be on the power play, and that's really not that far-fetched considering the Red Wings' power penalty kill is just atrocious, 71%. Meanwhile, you've got the Chicago Blackhawks power play at 50 or 34%. So it definitely seems plausible that Chicago could pop again on the power play. But in terms of, they're going to have to get it done on the power play because it doesn't look like they're going to have a lot of chances at 5v5. In terms of the matchup, about 82% of their ice time is going to come against the Larkin or the Glendening line. The Larkin line has actually been, one of their weaker defensive units, but nothing crazy. Right around average, 22 scoring chances against. The Glendening line obviously just kind of thrives on defense, so they don't give up a lot. So I think that they're going to be incredibly popular. I don't love Chicago tonight. I honestly, like, the Red Wings suck. They're not going to win this game most likely, but they're solid defensively. Like, they suffocate you and they don't give up a lot. So it's hard to, like, for me, it's going to be very difficult to pay $8,000 for Alex DeBrincat. Like, I'm just not going to do that. He's cheaper, or he's more expensive than Mitch Marner, and I just don't have interest in that. The Senators are much more leaky defensively than the Red Wings, and Marcus Högberg is not as good of a goalie as Thomas Greiss. So I would much rather play Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews than Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat, and I think that DeBrincat and Kane are going to carry some pretty heavy ownership even with those hefty price tags. They're just that hot. And then from the Red Wings side of things, I really have no interest. Like, nobody's doing anything. All their lines grade out below average. Nobody generates any offense. So, with that being said, obviously, it goes without saying that Kevin Lankinen is definitely a solid play in that tonight. Like he'll carry good ownership, $7,800. But like, the Red Wings might generate, like in terms of shots, that's the only concern, right? With Lankinen, like how much shot volume he's going to get. The Red Wings only averaging 26 shots for per game right now. Like shots for per 60, I should say, at 5v5. So really low number, and it's just not something that I'm targeting. Like, it's not a team that I'm targeting. Lankinen's a fine play, but I don't know. His ceiling is a little bit lower because his, the amount of shots he's going to face is much lower. Dallas, Nashville, another game I don't really have a whole lot of interest in. Looks kind of like a sludgy game, low scoring. So I'm not going to dive too deep into it. If you're going to play it, Rupe Hintz is a game time decision, so that's a little bit questionable. I think the only thing I would even consider at this point is a Jamie Benn, Joe Pavelski mini stack, maybe add John Klingberg in to get the power play correlation. But overall, doesn't look like a great game. But Jamie Benn, Pavelski looks probably like the only thing I would even consider at this point. If we want to talk quickly about their matchup, basically a mix of the Predators' top 9 and the Predators' top 9, pretty good defensively, all things considered. But just in terms of the other games on the slate, just not a whole lot of interest. So I'm just going to move on quickly if you guys don't mind about that one. Does the score come from the matchups or includes the pricing? No, it does. It's just matchups. So like that's why I do it that way. I don't include the pricing because if you play FanDuel, you can still use this, even though I only plug in Draftkings prices because Draftkings is more popular. And if I had everybody's price on this table, it would just be so hideous and I would lose my mind. So that's why it's built like this. The score is strictly matchup based. So any line that pops on this chart as being a good play is also a good play on FanDuel as well. Anton is going to shut him down. Yeah, I do like Hudobin quite a bit tonight. Again, it's another situation where, like, Lankinen's a good play because he's, the win equity is definitely there. It should be a game that he definitely wins. The same thing goes for Anton Hudobin, but the Predators' offense has really been lacking. So you do lose a little bit of upside because you're not going to get that like 35 save bonus most likely out of Hudobin or Lankinen. Like the other night you had Markstrom make like 20 saves in the first period against the Canucks, and you're just not going to get that against the Red Wings or the Predators. But in terms of kind of safe cash goalie plays, guys that you're banking on getting the win and putting up double digit 14 points or whatever, then yeah, I love Lankinen, I love Hudobin. Good. Everybody just look past Dallas tonight, please. Yeah. Go for it. Like, I think that you'll definitely get them at low ownership, and there's definitely an opportunity where they could produce. I think that there's better spots on the slate. So, the Nashville's team Corsi is rising last 3 games. Yeah, they shouldn't be as bad as they have been, but offensively they just have not been very good. So, but they're not terrible defensively. That's why not a whole lot of interest in Dallas either. Edmonton and Winnipeg. Obviously, both the top lines for this game come out on top. If you are not aware, the Winnipeg Jets did shake up their lines a little bit. Pierre-Luc Dubois will remain sidelined this evening. But Blake Wheeler's back up with Scheifele tonight. Andrew Kopp remains on the right wing. That puts Kyle Connor, Nick Ehlers with Paul Stastny. I think this is a good move for them. That Wheeler, Stastny, Connor line was getting caved at 5v5. So this helps a little bit. Ehlers will provide a spark to that second line. But ultimately, this whole team seems to run through Mark Scheifele. It's hard to really stack any line other than Mark Scheifele. It's kind of just like play whoever plays with Mark Scheifele. Kyle Connor really hasn't been the same since he left Scheifele's wing. Nick Ehlers went up there and ripped it up. So it's kind of just like whoever's playing with Scheifele at the moment is the one that you're going to want to target. Obviously, like it would be so much better from a DFS perspective if Ehlers or Connor were there because it's not like Kopp or Wheeler volume shooters, but maybe having a playmaker like Wheeler with Scheifele will help Scheifele's upside. But all in all, I don't love these lines from a DFS perspective, but I think it helps their team kind of as a whole. But Edmonton won. Obviously, they get Jesse Puljujarvi back tonight, 4,800. They look solid. It's Connor McDavid, always looks good. He's always going to pop towards the top of this chart because he's just that good. So they're expected to see 46% of their 5v5 ice time against Winnipeg 2, which is the Stastny line. As I just mentioned, they were getting absolutely caved at 5v5. with Connor and Wheeler on the wings. With Wheeler moving up, they do improve defensively a little bit. Pretty good, right around average defensively. So, I mean, going up against McDavid, it's not really it's not a good matchup for them. Obviously, like McDavid is matchup proof. So if they end up giving up more chances than like they were when Wheeler was on that wing, then McDavid could absolutely have a field night tonight. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck does stand in his way, but it is Connor McDavid. Obviously, the only line really we're targeting from the Edmonton Oilers right now, as I've mentioned on the show previously, the Draisaitl line really not getting anything going at 5v5. Still, it's pretty shocking that they haven't broken up that line because it really hasn't done anything. Well, I mean, they're below average offensively. They're not very good defensively at all. So I'm surprised they haven't shaken anything up. But I mean, it's not like what are you supposed to do? They don't have very many options in Edmonton. It's kind of they got to just stick with what they got, and hopefully that McDavid and the power play can do most of the heavy lifting. So it's got to be McDavid. If you want to leave Nugent Hopkins off, that's fine. It's getting to the point where you can kind of play him again because his price has come down. He was at like 7,800 last week, 6,900 this week. So you can play him this week because his price is coming back down. If you want to just pull Yarvi McDavid mini, that's fine. Bro, where are you getting these lines versus line time percentage? That is awesome. So all this is like, well, I do it all. I generate it all myself, but all this data is available at Natural Stat Trick. So I just have to pull the data from there and go through all the historical data trends and find out who's going to play against who. But all of it is available. I just put it together for you. Nashville is too good defensively. Yeah, Nashville's solid defensively. That's why. Dallas is not like they're like an offensive juggernaut either. Like that's just sludgy. That game just has sludgy written all over it. To me, but this game does not. I think this game has a chance to be very high scoring. It is the Oilers. It is the Jets. It has a chance to trade chances. I don't really like either goalie because of that. And their prices are super high. Like Mike Smith at 8,000, I just have like, yeah, he's been great, but no, thank you. Mike Smith is, it's not that good where I'm paying 8,000 in a questionable matchup. Hellebuck is a little bit interesting at 7,700. It's because he's super good. He should see a ton of shot volume tonight. And if he can steal one, he's going to, be maybe one of the best goalies on the slate. But chances are not very good. I think there's much better plays. But so Edmonton won and Winnipeg won again. I don't want to just mention the top lines, but that's who has the best matchups. Winnipeg 2 and Edmonton 2 both have positive matchups. So if you want to go for some salary savings there, that's fine. But it's hard to play Leon Draisaitl 8,400 and just kind of bank that he's going to score on the power play because he really doesn't get anything going at 5v5. Obviously, Connor at 6,000, that's a really good one-off price. I like that. But Ehlers is priced like he's still playing with Scheifele, so not a whole lot of interest there. I would just much rather, play Scheifele and Wheeler. I still don't love Kopp's price, but I don't mind a Scheifele Wheeler, mini stack. In terms of the power play, I think that you could definitely look at a Jets power play stack potentially. The Oilers penalty kill has not been very good on the season, so their lines are fragmented. So if you want to like take 4 pieces from their power play, whether basically go like Scheifele, Wheeler, and then Stastny, Connor, that's definitely an option. But it's it's gonna be hard to fit that with anything else really of high value. So a little bit of a risky play, but definitely it's something that has high upside if they get that PP going tonight. But all in all, again, just kind of those top 2 lines are the only thing I really have a lot of interest in. Then Vancouver and Calgary, it's this, Vancouver is starting to maybe figure things out. They looked excellent the other night. I just, how much stock do you put into that one terrific performance? I would expect Calgary to be much more hungry tonight, a much better hockey team tonight. So, I'm not putting too much stock into that first game or that last game, I should say, sorry. I do this Vancouver 1 line, they still have strong underlying numbers. They're kind of similar to Montreal 1 where they control the play. Their puck possession is terrific. They generate chances, but they don't have like elite scores. They don't score a lot. But the fact that their price is really starting to come down now because of that makes them intriguing. Like Bo Horvat at 4,800 now is definitely somebody I have interest in. He's still on the top power play unit. He still sees a ton of ice time, still sees still generating a lot of chances at 5v5. So at 4,800, like I had no interest in Bo Horvat when he got up there, like 66,000 or 6,500 or whatever the hell he was. But 4,800, definitely interested in that. I don't really love full stacking it. Like I don't love Tanner Pearson. I do love Hoglander, like as a player. But from DFS perspective, just really hasn't been getting, a whole lot going as of late. No goals in like 7 or 8 games, 1 assist in that time. So I think Horvat maybe as a one-off is a solid play. If you want a power play stack, you can do that relatively cheap. All these guys, no one more expensive than Pedersen at 6,000. So their power play is definitely an option, but the Flames pretty solid on the penalty kill at 80%. But if the Canucks found something that last game and they continue to play well tonight, they're not going to have very high ownership. And I really like that power play unit. Like as a whole, there's so much talent on that power play. So it's like it could pop off. And if you've watched the show, it's a power play that I've talked about a lot because their price is so good right now. Like the fact that DeBrincat's 8,000 and like Elias Pettersson 6,000. Obviously, the production is vastly different right now, but talent-wise, it's crazy. It's not a $2,000 discrepancy there at all. In terms of the matchups, Vancouver won, which is the Horvat line, expected to go basically head-to-head with the Elias Lindholm line. The Lindholm line has been terrific defensively, so it's not a great matchup for Vancouver one. Obviously their numbers look a little bit matchup-proof, but the Lindholm line basically takes out all the fun out of hockey. They don't generate a whole lot, at least with Dubé on that wing. They don't generate a whole lot offensively. They don't give up a lot defensively. Very low event game. Vancouver 2's numbers are coming around a little bit, like I mentioned. I expect to see 48% of their ice time against the Gaudreau line, which is probably the most gettable line from the Flames. So if I'm playing Vancouver, it is going to be that second line, the Pedersen line. And then if you want to add Horvat in because he's super cheap and kind of power play stack it, I think that's a pretty solid play. I also love Calgary 3, which, if you've watched the show the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about how much I love Backlund and Mangiapane. Problem is, Backlund is a game time decision tonight. He only played 4 minutes last game. So if he doesn't play, I don't like that at all. But if Mangiapane, something worth keeping an eye on, especially if you're playing the late slate, if he moves up and replaces anybody, whether he goes to the top line with Elias Lindholm and Tkachuk, or if he goes to the second line with Gaudreau and Monahan, then that makes that line that much better. Mangiapane is one of the best players in hockey that nobody talks about. So he provides a massive boost over Sam Bennett or Dylan Dubé if he replaces one of them, and then that makes that line that much more dangerous. So keep an eye on that if you're playing like the late slates, especially in warm-up, see how those lines shake out. And if he does move up because Backlund's out for whatever reason, then that makes that line that much better. And then the last game of the night, we talked about a little bit off the top. Sharks are extremely banged up on the blue line. So I do like John Gibson in net. I do have quite a bit of interest in Anaheim's top line, Adam Henrique and Ryan Getzlaf, specifically as a mini stack, 39 and 3,800 respectively. They look like the best target, the only actually target with a positive 5v5 score tonight from Anaheim side of things. I do like Rickard Rakell a little bit as a one-off. That line has been getting a ton of run. So if you want to just one-off somebody against the Sharks, I think Rakell is the preferred option over Henrique and Getzlaf in terms of one-offing. But if you're stacking, I like Henrique and Getzlaf. They play together in the top power play unit, so you can put them with Kevin Shattenkirk, which is fine, or you can put them with Rakell even. But obviously playing the Ducks isn't a lot of fun. They're not a sexy team. They're not a very good team, but it looks like a really good matchup tonight. If we want to look at the top power play unit, obviously features all their studs. So like I said, if you want to kind of go Henrique, Getzlaf, Shattenkirk, or Henrique, Getzlaf, Rakell, because I do like Rakell as a one-off, I think this is a game that they could, find some offense tonight. The Sharks, if we look here, one of the worst defensive teams in hockey. The Ducks really not getting a whole lot down offensively, but just the fact that the Sharks are pretty bad defensively, and then they lose 2 of their mainstays on the blue line, 2 of their top 4 defensemen, and then Martin Jones still in net. Looks like a night where the Ducks can get things going. From the Sharks' perspective, San Jose 1 and 2 both look like they have, they're right around the same. I prefer the second line still. I think that Hurdle at 5,700 is a much better play than Couture at 6,800. They're very similar in terms of their production. So, might as well just take the $1,100 in salary savings and run with it. And then I much prefer Timo Meier over somebody like Kevin LeBanc or Vander Kane, especially because Meier is cheaper than Kane. And Meier just, when he's on, Meier's shot production is kind of unmatched. Obviously, he's been a little bit disappointing lately, but like I said, the Ducks aren't very good defensively either. So it looks like a decent matchup for them. Looks like a decent, potentially high scoring matchup that won't get a lot of ownership. If I wanted to get super greedy and mini Marner, Matthews, and one off McDavid, what's the best cheap mini to stack with them? So there's a couple. I think that Ottawa 2, like the Dadonov, Colin White mini is probably my favorite. And then you can start getting weird too. Like you can punt the two defensemen, and then play Jeff Skinner, and then that kind of opened things up to maybe go back like and play Puljujärvi with McDavid even. You can, like, obviously I think that the best value play on the whole slate is Jeff Skinner, but I really like that second line of Ottawa if you want a mini stack there. If we look at the overall scores here, obviously the fourth best line of the night is Buffalo 2, which Jeff Skinner is featured on. And then where is Ottawa 2? I know they're up here, right here. So like they come out as like the sixth best stack of the entire night. So at their price, like as a mini stack, they're just outstanding. So obviously really like them. The other thing you can do is play Joe Thornton, right? Like full stack that Toronto top line, and it allows you to get greedy and put McDavid in there too. But let's talk a little bit more about goalies. So the one thing I want to mention too, obviously all these charts are available. Like it's tough to get all this information and build lineups at 6:30 right before game start, right? So if you want all this stuff, like on a busy day, the stuff's usually posted around 3 p.m. And it gives you about 4 or 5 hours to digest it and build lineups, right? So if you become a DFO premium member, this stuff is available to you much earlier as opposed to coming on this video and getting it then, an hour before lock. So become a DFO premium subscriber. We also have a Discord channel going with all of our DFO premium members where we just chat all day, talk about who we want to play. You guys can chat amongst each other. The other thing is too, I provide all the line breakup, warm up breaking news. In terms of lineups, injuries, all in there as well. So it allows you to get to make those late swaps if you need to, and it's just really helpful, especially you kind of just bounce ideas off of each other, right? And we just kind of chat all day, and it helps. So yeah, join DFO Premium for kind of multiple benefits. All right, let's talk about some of the cheap defensemen tonight. To be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to really dive in, but I do like Rasmus Dahlin. Mario Ferraro, I should start with because he's one of my favorites. He should see extra run tonight because of all the injuries for the Sharks. His price is up to 4,300, but he's still one of the most consistent defensemen, that you can find near the bottom of the pricing. Obviously, like I said, his pricing is coming up, but played 25 minutes the other night. Should see something similar to that tonight with Carlson and Simek out. So I do like him at 4,300. Shattenkirk, if you're playing Anaheim, I like at 4,200. Dahlin at 4,000 is really good, especially if you're playing, Jeff Skinner and Eichel. No reason not to play Dahlin at that point. At 4,000, Alex Edler still, really cheap and a guy that can block a ton of shots at 4,100. Justin Holl is obviously kind of usually the preferred target if you're playing Toronto 1, or like preferred punt option on the preferred target. Obviously, you'd want to play Morgan Riley with them, but he's probably your best punt option. He's up to 3,600 now, but still pretty reasonably priced. Evan Bouchard's obviously still one of the best deep punts at 3,600. Among the league leaders in shots per 60 at 5v5 from defensemen. So really good value that, you're going to get a couple shots on net from him every single game at 3,600. He's terrific. I don't like the Red Wings at all, but Kristen Juice is still in that top power play unit for what that's worth. It's not like the Blackhawks are that outstanding. Obviously, they've been much better than advertised, but he's fine on the top power play unit. Speaking of Chicago and top power play units, it looks like Nick Beaudin is going to continue to get a run on that top power play unit. It's kind of his calling card, more of like an offensive specialist. He's got goals in back-to-back games. He's just 3,200 as well. So he looks like really solid if you're playing DeBrincat and Kane. Like he allows you to at least save some money when stacking that line. If you don't want to pay up for Shattenkirk, Cam Fowler's fine if you're playing Anaheim. He's just 3,300, way too cheap for how good he is and how the amount of minutes that he plays. Other than that, like I said, I think that Scott Mayfield is one of those guys that you can just one-off if you need to save some money. He's only 2,800, shot blocking machine. He's not going to provide you with too much offensive upside, but in terms of blocking shots, he definitely can do that. And then I think you could maybe, if you want to go all the way to the bottom, I think that the best one is probably Colin Miller from the Sabres. he is he should see a little bit more usage tonight because they're without Ristolainen. Does see some power play time as well. So you need to go to the bottom of the barrel. I like Colin Miller, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot to like at the bottom of the barrel. Some of the guys that we've been talking about a lot, some of our favorites have kind of risen in price, which is unfortunate. I guess the one other guy I would mention is Vladislav Gavrikov at 2,600. Decent offensive upside. Definitely some shot blocking prowess as well. And Zach Werenski is out tonight, so he's expected to be paired with Seth Jones. So he should see a ton of minutes tonight. And, the more minutes played, the more chances you have to pick up a few shots, pick up a couple block shots, especially against a team like the Hurricanes who just fire everything on net. So definitely an opportunity for him to hit the 3-shot block bonus at least tonight at 2,600. So that's all the questions. In terms of goalies, I think Anderson is kind of an interesting play because he should see a ton of shot volume tonight. You'd imagine they win that game too, but like I said, I do like Ottawa, so I don't have a ton of interest in Anderson, but he shouldn't be too heavily owned at 8,500. So I think you should get decent ownership on him. And he's not that ownership matters too much for goalies, but I think he is interesting just because the Senators do generate a ton of offense. And as we've seen, like goalies against them, Hellebuck last week was outstanding, right? Like if he makes 40 saves, then he's ridiculous, but it is pricey. I mentioned Hudobin a little bit earlier, 8,100. I like him. Lankinen, 7,800. I like him. I like Gibson at 7,600. And Linus Ullmark at 7,200. Those are probably my favorites. I don't think I would go too much lower than that. I think Korpisalo is a little bit interesting because he should see a ton of volume from the Hurricanes, but I don't, that's the Hurricanes could light him up. So I think Ullmark is probably as low as I would go. I think that there's a chance that the Sabres win that game. And he's been pretty solid all season long. I mean, 914 save percentage right around league average, but he's been in double digits 5 games in a row in terms of DK points. So obviously the long break, it's questionable. It's a little bit scary for sure, but I mean, at the savings you're getting for him at 7,200, I think he's a fine option tonight. But ran a little bit long today, 52 minutes, so I have to run. Good luck to everybody tonight. Obviously, with tonight being a busy Monday, it means that we are going to get a pretty busy Tuesday night as well. So it's going to be a busy week of hockey. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to bringing you guys these shows every single night. So tune back in tomorrow at 5:15, and we will go live then. But anyways, good luck to everybody tonight. Make sure you smash that like button if you're watching on YouTube. Helps a ton. And join DFO Premium. But yeah, good luck, and see you guys tomorrow.